Sup YouTube, this is the chemist guy and we are on our fourth video now, and I'm very excited because after 3 videos of preliminary and introductory stuff, we finally now begin working with and understanding Maxwell's equations. Yes, so in the very first video of the series I talked about the maths required to work with Maxwell's equations, and in the last 2 videos I discussed the physical quantities which are involved in Maxwell's equations and to give an elementary understanding of them. So today we begin with Maxwell's first equation, and that is Gauss's law. Yes, now I could go on and on about Gauss's law because it is a very important and very useful law that has been given to us. But today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over some of the basic math in this law and its interpretation, what it means for us. Yes, so Gauss's law basically it tells us how the electric field behaves around electric charges. Yes, so Gauss's law uses 2 of the 8 quantities which we talked about. Yes, and Gauss's law, the differential form of Gauss's law is del dot D is equal to rho V. Okay, it's as simple as that. Yes, the del dot, if you all remember, it's the divergence operator. D is the electric flux density and rho V is electric charge density, both of which we talked about in the last video. Yes, so this is basically Gauss's law. So you can read this as divergence of electric flux density is equal to electric charge density. Yes, and this is known as Gauss's law in the point form. That means this equation, it's basically true at any point in space. Yes, so if there is an electric charge somewhere, then the divergence of D at that point is non-zero. Yes, that's what it means. Yes, otherwise it is going to be equal to 0. If there is no charge, there is no divergence of D is what it means. So to get a little bit of more understanding into Gauss's law, we can look at it in the integral form. Okay, so let's assume some arbitrary volume, okay, and we'll call it V. Yes, a volume V, and it has got a boundary. Okay, I'll just draw a sphere. Okay, and we'll call this boundary as S. Okay, a boundary area which we'll call S. Okay, then integrating this equation over this around this closed volume, it gives us the volume integral. Okay, I draw 3 integral signs just as a notation for the volume. So the volume integral of del dot D, yes, it's the volume integral, so del dot D dV is equal to volume integral of charge density, okay, rho V dV, isn't it? Now this implies, now if you remember the identity we talked about in the very first video, this implied integrating the divergence over this closed surface S, okay, this loop over this integral sign, this kind of elliptical part, it signifies that we are integrating over a closed area as opposed to an open area. So if it's something like this, okay, and we are talking about something that's passing through this is an open area, right? So we are integrating over an area that is a boundary to something. Yes, it is a boundary to the sphere, so that's why we put in a loop. So that says that integral surface integral of d ds with respect to the surface S is equal to volume integral of rho V, isn't it? And integrating charge density over volume, it basically tells us how much charge is enclosed in this. Yes, so most people think this is the integral form of Gauss's law. Yes, surface integral of D is equal to volume integral of rho V, but this can further be simplified and this can just be written as Q enclosed. Yes, enclosed charge. So surface integral of D is equal to enclosed charge is the integral form of Gauss's law. So I'm pretty sure most of y'all are wondering what on earth is going on. Yes, so I'll just go through it real quick and explain it. Okay, so as an example, let me draw a cube. Okay, so this is a cube, and yeah, okay, I have a cube. Yes, and suppose it has an interior volume V. Yes, and let this surface, okay, this surface S, okay, be one of the boundaries of the cube, right? The 6 flat surfaces form a boundary that contains the volume of the cube, isn't it? So the integral form of Gauss's law, it basically tells us that the amount of charge inside this volume V, that is Q enclosed, is equal to the total amount of electric flux D exiting the surface S. Yes, so to determine the electric flux leaving the region V, we only need to know how much electric charge is inside the volume. Yes, so we define this in terms, if we have to define these terms, then basically dds, okay, this, it basically means we are only interested in the component of D that is entering or exiting the volume. Okay, to give an example, suppose I have some electric flux density D that is going somewhat like this, and it is exiting it, making an angle of say theta with this surface. Okay, we'll call it theta. Now I'm assuming you all know resolution of vectors, right? So this, because D is a vector field, I can resolve it into two parts. Yes, this becomes D sine theta, which I can call, I'll just call it dn. Okay, I'll come to y, and I can resolve it in the horizontal part, and which is d cos theta, and I'll call it dt. Okay, so basically dn means the normal, the component of the electric flux density normal to the surface, which is actually passing out, and dt, that is d cos theta, is what is tangential to the surface. Yes, it is just sweeping across the surface. So the dds in this equation, it basically means that we are only interested in the component of D that is entering or exiting the volume. Okay, we don't care about the tangential component, we only care about d sine theta in this case, at least. Yes, the tangential components, they just circle around the volume, they don't really contribute to the net electric flux. So that, and if we are integrating, we are basically summing up the dds values at each point along this surface. So if there were like many d's exiting this surface, we are just integrating all the normal components, isn't it? Yes, so Gauss's law is basically a mathematical statement that tells us that total electric flux exiting any volume is equal to the total charge inside that volume. So if the volume in question has got no charge inside it, there is the net flow of electric flux outside that region is zero. Yes, if there is a positive charge within the volume, then there is going to be a positive amount of electric flux exiting that volume. If there is negative charge within the volume, then there is a negative amount of electric flux exiting, which means there is some electric flux that is entering the volume. So how does this matter at all? Okay, what does this mean? So the importance of Gauss's law is that it tells us that electric charges, they act as sources or sinks for electric fields. Yes, so if you want to talk about say there is a pipe that is piping out water, okay, it's pumping out water, and then that water is flowing down a drain hole. So positive charges can be thought of as the tank from which the water is coming out. Yes, and the positive charge is like a faucet or a tank that is pumping water into a region, and conversely negative charges will give rise to flow into a volume, which means negative charges act like a sink or a drain. So that basically tells us that electric fields flow into some region and terminate on a negative charge, and they start from the positive charge. So this gives us a lot of intuition, a lot of idea about the way fields can physically act in any kind of scenario. For example, let's talk about a few scenarios over here. So suppose my first case, okay, case 1, okay, I just have, this is my D field, okay, my electric flux density, okay, and in this scenario itself I have, okay, so this is my D field, okay, and I have something that looks like this: a positive charge, another positive charge. Yes, so looking at Gauss's law, we can tell which of these two scenarios is possible and which is impossible. Okay, now this first scenario, there is no electric charge, isn't it? There is no electric charge here, and there is no divergence in the D field. Of course it is possible, because Gauss's law tells us that divergence of electric field indicates the presence of a charge. Yes, and but in the second case, again you can see no divergence in the D field. Excuse my drawing, but of course I intend these to be straight lines. There is no divergence of the D field, but there is a positive charge. This is impossible. Yes. If we look at another case, suppose we have something like this. Okay, my D field looks like this. Okay, and suppose I have something like this. Okay, now which of these is possible and which is impossible? Okay, these are positive charges. First case, there is divergence but no charge. Of course it is impossible according to Gauss, because there can be no divergence in the D field without the presence of some charge. And in the second case, positive charge and positive divergence, it is possible. It follows Gauss's law. Yes. Now case 3, similarly with negative charges. Yes. So suppose we have something like this. Okay, this is our D field, and suppose we have something like this, our negative charge and our D field. Okay, in this case no charge, but there is some negative divergence. Yes, impossible. Similarly, if I have a negative charge, okay, something like this, and there is my D field looks like this. Okay, so my first and third case is utterly impossible according to Gauss's law. No charge, negative divergence, impossible. Negative charge but positive divergence, again impossible. But in the second case, I have got negative divergence in the presence of negative charge. It is possible. Yes. So if you observe, now one thing, interesting thing to note here is that if you observe the way the D field behaves around charges, right? Positive charge means there is a positive divergence, it diverges outwards. Negative charge, it diverges inwards. You can notice that Gauss's law, it is actually equivalent to the force equation for charges, isn't it? Because the force equation tells us that F is equal to Q1 Q2 upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square. I hope you all remember. So then the magnitude of the electric field is given by Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square, and the D field is just electric field magnitude times epsilon. So magnitude of the D field, it's basically Q upon 4 pi r square. This is supposed to be 4 pi r square. Yes, so this basically tells us that charges exert a force on each other, which means that there are electric fields that are away from positive charge and towards negative charge, isn't it? This means that opposite charges attract and negative charges repel, and similar charges repel. And because D and E are related by permittivity, we can see that Gauss's law is nothing but a more formal statement of the force equation for electric charges. Yes, so to summarize, the Gauss's law tells us 5 basic things. Okay, first thing is that D and E, the field lines of D and E diverge away from positive charges. Yes, we saw that. Second one, similar to this, the D and E, this just tells that it's the same thing. D and E, the field lines diverge towards or converge towards negative charge. Yes. Thirdly, the D and E fields start and stop on electric charges. This is very very important. Yes, they can only start and stop on electric charges. Electric charge is the source of the field and it is also the end point of the field. Yes. And fourth, opposite charges attract. This is something we have known for a long time. Yes, opposite charges attract, negative charges repel. I'm so sorry, I keep saying negative charges. It is similar charges. Yes, opposite charges attract, similar charges repel. And the fifth implication is basically just what the mathematical statement of Gauss's law states. Divergence of electric flux density is equal to enclosed charge. Yes, so that pretty much covers all we need to know about Gauss's law. Yes, these 5 implications. So the mathematical statement of Gauss's law is del dot D is equal to rho V. In the integral form, it is integral of d ds over a closed surface is equal to integral of rho dV, that is the enclosed charge. Yes, and these are the 5 implications of Gauss's law. Electric field and electric flux density diverges away from positive charge and converges towards negative charge. Both these fields start and stop on electric charge. Opposite charges attract and similar charges repel. Divergence of electric flux density is equal to the enclosed charge. So that's all about Gauss's law, the first Maxwell's equation. So next time we talk about the second Maxwell's equation, and another way you will be able to see that there is analogy and there is difference between electric and magnetic fields. So we'll talk about Gauss's law for magnetism, the second Maxwell's equation, next time. Signing off for now. Thank you.